Is FMCSA letting small carriers down again? It seems so when it comes to broker transparency. To avoid the broker price gouging that sometimes happens in the freight market, FMCSA was supposed to amend the property carrier broker rules that OOIDA and SBTC have been pushing for to protect small carriers and owner-operators. A notice of proposed rulemaking was supposed to come by Halloween 2024. Is it still happening? Let's get in the loop with Luke and discuss. Okay, so why is broker transparency important to owner-operators and smaller carriers? Well, it comes down to one question. How much money are brokers really making from owner-operators, and is that price gouging? It's the age-old question in the trucking industry. For example, carriers believe brokers are price gouging and taking as much as 50% off the shipment value in the current market. They're complaining that brokers are influencing this market in their favor and that the result is the carriers are not getting paid a fair rate per mile. On the flip side, brokers are commenting that carriers themselves gouged brokers during the pandemic and that they drove rates higher from day to day on the same lanes for their own gain. So, who's right and what's fair? Well, first, let's look at what is fair. According to Overdrive magazine, one of the most heated questions in trucking is how much do brokers make on the loads you haul? How much do they deserve to make? And how can they be trusted to honestly report the numbers? Well, that load board data was analyzed in a recent study that found flatbed brokers' average margin of 15%, reefers had 14%, and dry van margins were 13%. This is similar to 2018 DAT data. So brokers making 10 to 20% on loads is a relatively normal rate. Knowing this, what's price gouging? Really, brokers making anything over 35% could be seen as price gouging. And too often we see brokers bragging about making 40, 50, or even 100% margin on loads. And this definitely seems like price gouging. But it is more complicated than that. For example, if the load rate of $2,000 stayed and we changed the rate of competition to move freight, what happens? Well, if the competition to move freight is not high, it's low, margins may be 20% for a load and the broker may make around $4,000 off of it. But if competition is super high, brokers may push for margins of 35%, but only make $1,000 off that load. In reality, it depends on the health of the freight market, and there are times when you may see higher broker margins so they don't go out of business. So where does broker transparency come in, and why is it important? Simply, being transparent helps ensure fair and accurate pay for all parties. From the perspective of people who operate trucks, we assume that brokers don't want to disclose information because the position they have might be advantageous to them. And obviously, if you're the carrier that moved the goods, then you're a party that's entitled to see that information. Who knows what the broker could be hiding? So, understanding how and why mileage rates change, the fuel surcharge, shipping costs, and seeing a detailed bill of lading that breaks down and justifies expenses is important. This also helps avoid any unexpected disputes that could cost valuable time and resources. So what does OOIDA and SBTC hope FMCSA would do to make transparency more clear? Well, there's 4 things. First, they want FMCSA to require property brokers to provide an electronic copy of each transaction record automatically within 48 hours after the contractual service has been completed. Second, they want to prohibit brokers from including any provisions in the contracts that require a motor carrier to waive its rights to access the transaction records. Third, they want FMCSA to prohibit brokers from coercing or otherwise requiring parties to brokers' transactions to waive their rights to review the record of the transaction as a condition of doing business. And fourth, they want FMCSA to adopt regulatory language indicating that broker contracts may not include a stipulation or clause exempting the broker from having to comply with the transparency requirements. So, what happened? Is FMCSA going to make these changes? Are there other transparency rule changes that they're looking for? And is October the expected deadline anymore? Well, the worry was that the most recent Unified Regulatory Agenda, which lays out upcoming dates of new and proposed rules, saw that broker transparency had been removed from this list. So the question became, is FMCSA just kicking the can down the road? Will it pop up in the next agenda 6 months from now? Well, after some loud complaints in the industry, FMCSA quickly made a statement saying FMCSA remains committed to initiating a rulemaking in 2024 concerning broker transparency. Great! So the Halloween deadline may still be in place, but why was it removed in the first place? Well, the rulemaking report is not a rundown of every regulatory action planned by its agencies. Instead, it's an economically significant report, or rulemakings that would have an annual effect on the economy of $100 million or more. The agency said they don't believe the broker rulemaking meets that definition, which is why it was not included in the latest report. So, broker transparency is still coming, and we can't wait to hear what changes they want to make. One last thing around rules that try to prevent bad brokers in our industry. In November, a final rule came out pushing for more broker financial responsibility, which includes a provision enabling FMCSA to shut down a broker or freight forwarder quickly in the event of a drawdown on a bond or other required financial security with valid claims. And this rule rolls out in 2025 to 2026. If you want more information on this, click the link in the bio below. Want to hear more good information? Like, subscribe, and as always, stay safe out there.